Happy Easter, everyone! Today we're doing another autism, not Easter themed, just an autism themed reaction to the Am I the Asshole subreddit. As I say, am I the arsehole? Because I'm in the UK. This is where people have done something that everyone is telling them is bad. They put a post on Am I the Arsehole, and then people do a verdict to say, you're the arsehole, no, everybody sucks, you're not the arsehole, and find out whether they're really in the wrong about certain situations. The first one, am I the arsehole for how I revealed that I am autistic? It can be a tricky thing, how to, kind of come out as autistic. I, 24 female, have been with my boyfriend for 2 years. We're family friends and have known each other and the other's family growing up. That's really sweet. I really like stories like that. I don't know, it's just cute. It's like Mary's Song by Taylor Swift. Throughout my life, I thought I struggled with anxiety, depression, and mild OCD. Relatable content, but never quite fit the diagnostic criteria and struggled to get effective treatment or a diagnosis. Yeah, that's the same as me. Looked at many a diagnostic criteria and I was like, well, there's definitely something. There's something going on here, but I don't know what it is. This has been pretty private my entire life and it was rarely visible from the outside. Again, relatable content. Shortly before my boyfriend and I started dating at 21, I saw a new provider who suggested I read about how autism presents in women. Oh, wish I'd had that experience. I had to figure it all out on my own in the trenches. I was hesitant since I had a preconceived idea about what autism looked like, but just about everything I read clicked and it was like a light flipped on. I felt so understood and everything made so much more sense, including my past struggles to get an effective diagnosis or treatment. I underwent 2 evaluations. One was just for a second opinion. Oh, so they were very, very thorough. That does sound very autistic of you. And was diagnosed with autism from each. The diagnosis did not change much about my day-to-day life, but understanding autism has definitely helped me learn better coping mechanisms for some of my struggles, for sure. I was always super into trying to understand myself. I thought of myself as quite self-aware, always into psychology, and there are just so many things which I could never have understood about myself unless I'd been looking at myself through the lens of autism. It was so incredibly helpful and has completely changed my life. Mainly just my internal world. I'm not angry with myself anymore. Basically, I was always just like, why are you like this? Kind of in my head to myself. My evaluation was literally right before boyfriend and I became official, and it took me a while to disclose to him, but he was super understanding and read up on autism in women. It has never been an issue in our relationship. That's the real love language, when somebody looks up autism when they're in a relationship with you. That's how you get all the autistic girls. Not that I'm encouraging you to specifically pursue autistic girls. Could be a bit problematic if there's a particular autistic girl that you like. That's how you get the girl. Recently, we were at a bonfire with his extended family and I was sitting with the women. Boyfriend's sister, Sarah, I'll say Sarah. Sarah is pregnant and shared fear of her baby having autism, and the woman started talking about how awful it would be, how if the baby had autism it'd need round the clock lifelong care and ruin the parent's life. Yeah, I mean, this is the impression that a lot of people have of autism, which was why it's strange that Abby's mom in the video that I reacted to on Thursday this week, it's really weird that she was kind of acting like most people when they hear autism are gonna just think of quirky people on TikTok with chick earrings, but that's not the reality. Most people will start telling you about a family member who works with people who have to go to a special needs school and things like that. That is what people think of, but autistic people can have any amount of intelligence. Some autistic people speak, some autistic people don't speak. It's all over the place. There's a million different presentations of autism, which is why we find it so difficult to pin it down and make distinct profiles, and why it is now considered autism spectrum disorder. There are a lot of people who have misconceptions for sure. I sympathize to an extent because autism is a spectrum, yep, and some autistic people do need round-the-clock lifelong care, and raising a severely disabled child is taxing. I don't know how I feel about the word severely, but I know what they mean. For sure. I think being a carer is incredibly difficult, and I think people do not get enough support for that. 100%, I agree. But most autistic kids grow up into functioning adults. Don't like the word functioning. What is a functioning adult? People have all sorts of different outcomes, I suppose, and differing abilities to fit into our capitalist society in the way that we're supposed to, and some people find ways to make themselves fit and some people struggle more. So I kindly told her that, and that even if the baby had autism, everything would most likely be alright. He responded, have you ever met an autistic child? Clearly not. So maybe she was thinking of one specific person, and this is the really difficult thing. People meet or spend time with one specific autistic person and they're like, autism expertise activated, I now know absolutely everything. But the more I learn about autism, I just realize You just can't put it in a box. Like, autism cannot be tamed, can't be blamed, you know? Went on and on about how even the few autistic adults who did not need round-the-clock care can't hold normal jobs and could never support themselves. So we do have an unemployment issue with autistic people. I mean, a lot of autistic people probably who are succeeding in employment, I imagine there's a lot of autistic lawyers. I feel like there are. Probably a lot of them aren't diagnosed. So I guess if you can't handle employment, you're probably more likely to be diagnosed. In 2000, the prevalence in autistic children was thought to be 1 in 150. Now it's 1 in 36. A hell of a lot of people, even between like 2000 and now, have probably slipped through the cracks. And a lot of autistic people will probably never ever be diagnosed. There is an issue with employment that I personally have worked in traditional employment for about 3 months, and that's all I've managed. And I've been self-employed for the rest of the time and have kind of managed to like patchwork quilt together an income through my special interests. Everyone with autism is different, I agree, but Sarah and her family have always raved about me and expressed extreme support for me and boyfriend's relationship. I have a great career and very comfortably support myself. I listened until I couldn't anymore and then said, Sarah, for what it's worth, I am autistic. The women freaked out and said there was no way I'm autistic. Yeah. No one's ever overtly told me there's no way I'm autistic. I must be weird enough. But yeah, I certainly have had people, I think, thinking it. I can see them thinking it. People being skeptical and, you know, like asking me questions, and it feels a little bit like an interrogation sometimes. Definitely had that happen. I went on to share that I've been evaluated twice. That's once more than me. Sarah practically ran to tell on me to my boyfriend, who just said, I know, it's not really a big deal. This boyfriend sounds great. This boyfriend sounds great. We should keep him around. He is on my side, but the rest of his family is saying I ruined their night and should have sat them down to have a serious conversation about my diagnosis rather than springing it on them. They're extremely pissed at me for the way I went about this. No, you are not the asshole at all. I'm just gonna say that straight up. There is no way in hell. What? I think they're sorry they got caught. They're sorry they got caught saying ableist things and making ableist assumptions, you know? You embarrassed them, basically. Not intentionally, it wasn't your fault, but you saying that resulted in them being embarrassed, and now they're trying to turn it and blame you. I mean, this is the thing. This is what I said when I made the video about how autistic seems to have kind of become a bit of an insult amongst Gen Z. Might be amongst other generations as well. I don't want to blame the whole generation. And then also saying acoustic instead of autistic, those two things. And in that video I said, particularly if you're using autistic as an insult, you have no idea if someone around you could be autistic. And I actually read out a Reddit post in that video where somebody had overheard this being used as an insult and it had upset them. And you just never know. You never know if somebody in the room is autistic. So like, I guess this is a lesson to all of us. If we're ever saying anything that could be seen as derogatory about a marginalized group, you have to think, would you be comfortable saying that if a member of that group was around? And if not, maybe question, why are you saying that in the first place? Question your own thoughts that you're having about that group. If, you know, you would feel that embarrassed if you felt like a member of the group had overheard you saying those things. Let's see what the comments say. Not the asshole. Sarah put her foot in her mouth and is dealing with it by going on the offensive. Yeah, that's what I said. They're not extremely pissed at you. There's no feelings involved. They're just doing mean girl tactics to try and get rid of you. Hopefully they're not trying to get rid of you. I think they're just embarrassed, and hopefully maybe in a few days they'll get over the embarrassment. Yeah, I don't know. How would I approach this if somebody says, oh, you didn't tell me the right way? I would feel like that was quite offensive, like they were making it into a huge deal. Like, what was I supposed to do? Like, sit you down and say, I have some really bad news, as if it's, you know, like some sort of terminal diagnosis. It's not like that. I don't know if that's really what they were expecting, though. I think, again, it was just that they were embarrassed. I don't know. I'd probably just give them a few days to get over it, and hopefully they'll maybe apologize. I don't know. I don't think you need to apologize for sure. OP embarrassed them and they fully deserved it, not the asshole. They embarrassed themselves. Yeah, not the asshole. They could have used that as an opportunity to address their ignorance and gotten a ton of reassurance from an autistic adult who's been able to have a good life, but no, they're pissed about being wrong. Not the asshole. You're allowed to disclose information about yourself, however, whenever you want to. It made them uncomfortable because they realized they were being ignorant and offensive. Info, did you ask them when they plan on sitting down to discuss any diagnoses they have with you? Not the asshole. You do not owe them a conversation about your autism. It's none of their business. You disclose that information too, and when is entirely up to you. Sarah and the family are just embarrassed by their own ignorance. You can only hope they take this as a chance to educate themselves. Yeah, for sure. That's exactly how I felt. I'm glad the commenters agreed, because sometimes they don't agree with me. Apparently the next one is food related. My husband picked these out. It's not explicitly linked to autism, but there are some things that I think we will probably find relatable. Am I the asshole for forcing my kid to eat foods she dislikes? Ever since she was a little kid, my daughter has been a picky eater. She would make a fuss about eating and oftentimes spat everything she ate in the sink during lunch. Of course, we didn't let her get her way. Not only because if we did, she would have probably died, but because it's just a bad behavior that needed to be corrected. Oh, this is very old school, finish everything on your plate sort of vibes. Not a huge fan, not a huge fan. I mean, as a parent of a young child, I do understand as a parent something weird happens to your brain, right? Particularly when my son was very small, I would get kind of stressed out when he didn't finish his food, and you worry because it feels like so much responsibility to look after, you know, this young life. You worry like, oh my gosh, they're gonna die. They're gonna die. It's gonna be the end because they haven't finished all of their whatever mushed up sweet potato, whatever you're giving them. But then I think as time goes on, you realize children will eat when they're hungry. They will eat. They're not going to die. Like, obviously, if your child is losing a lot of weight, then you probably need to see a dietitian and get some help. Did they see a dietitian? Did they get some help? It's not sounding like that was at the forefront of their mind here. It sounds like punishment was at the forefront of their mind, unfortunately. Behavior needs to be corrected. ABA therapy vibes again here. We'd make her eat and try new things a lot, but it was always a struggle. How do you make her eat? What did you do? Like threats, or like were there punishments involved if she didn't finish things? It never made me want to eat more when people did things like that, like you have to eat this or else. It would just go on for hours and hours of me like crying at the table. It wasn't good. We'd make her eat and try new things a lot, but it was always a struggle. She did learn to like some of the things and increased her palate, but she is now 18 and not that much better. She has such an issue with food, she won't even touch the ones she hates the most. She won't go near me if I eat it, and sometimes even leaves the room saying she hates the smell. This is giving neurodivergent vibes. Could be ADHD, people have sensory sensitivities as well. ADHD and autism, a lot of overlap, a lot of similarities. Could possibly be autistic because, yeah, smell of food. There were some foods that my stepdad would eat and they would stink out the whole house, and I would like be there hiding in my room feeling nauseous, my stomach like rolling over, just awful. My husband's not autistic and he basically likes all foods, but the one thing he can't stand is crisps, because someone at primary school I think touched some of his food at lunchtime with like crisp dust all over their fingers, so he's really grossed out by it. Basically any type of crisps. He'll sometimes eat, you know, relatively like kind of plain potato crisps, but he can't eat Pringles, Doritos, What's-Its we have in this country. I don't know what the American equivalent of What's-Its is. I can't remember. I feel like, is it Cheetos or something? Maybe it's them. He will, if I eat a crisp, because I don't mind crisps, they're okay. Obviously they're not particularly healthy, but if I eat them, he'll run away. He'll run away. Thankfully, she doesn't like unhealthy foods, so she is healthy eating the way she eats, but it's frustrating. Okay. I just thought she'd be over that by now. Well, if she's not losing loads of weight and she is eating a healthy diet, I mean, again, she could always recommend that she sees a dietitian to double check that she's getting all the nutrients she needs if her diet is a little bit, you know, restrictive and there are things that she won't eat. But like, why does it matter then? Why does it matter? Because this is the thing that I realized as I got older and I was able to more control what I was eating and had more freedom over it. You don't have to like every single food. And like most people eat a relatively like restrictive diet. We all have like our same brands, even people who are not autistic that we like, that we buy each week. You know, not everybody's eating every single different food under the sun on a weekly basis. You don't have to hit your nutrient needs. So yeah, I realized that I didn't need to like everything. I just needed to like enough things to get everything that I needed. And I could also take a multivitamin to help me with that as well. Yeah, I think that's completely fine. I don't see what the problem is. I guess it's just like this parent can't understand what it's like not like those foods, so therefore feels like it's irrational. But everybody's different. Everyone's experience of food is different. I've seen the way people wolf down Brussels sprouts and I'm like, something different is going on in your internal landscape, because I would not be doing that. There's no way. I tell her she can't hate food like that or find it disgusting. Well, if she does eat, then she's not hating food unless she's losing loads of weight. And that there are people dying and starving in the world wishing they had what she does. I'm not laughing at people starving in the world, obviously. I'm laughing at the fact that this is such a stereotypical thing that parents always say to their children, you know, there are starving children in Africa. And my mum definitely had a thing of like, it was very, very rude to gag or say foods were like, ooh, like sometimes I had friends come around to my house who were also picky eaters and they wouldn't want to eat things and they'd say like, ew, yuck. My mum was generally quite easygoing and she didn't push me. She definitely accommodated me and mostly made foods that I liked, but there were certain times where she was like, that's really healthy, you need to have that kind of thing. But she really didn't like people kind of yucking food. But the thing is, people do have sensory issues, and that's what my mom didn't realize about me at the time. Like, taste and texture can be a problem, and if she'll eat other foods. It doesn't matter, just don't buy her foods that she doesn't like. And I understand food waste is an issue, but there won't be food waste if she's eating things that she likes. Also, she's 18. Like, why aren't we micromanaging her diet when she's 18? People starving in the world, wishing they had what she does. She tells me that it makes her feel guilty. It does make you feel guilty, but she can't eat them anyways. But if she actually cared, wouldn't she eat it? Is this like a parody? I don't know. Yes, it makes you feel so guilty. I've said so many times I would go around to people's houses and they'd have like a full Sunday dinner as people eat in the UK, and I just couldn't eat basically any of it. I'd like pick at the Yorkshire pudding a little bit and stuff because it would have gravy all over and I hated gravy. I would feel so bad, and so many times it was like, we're having this for dinner and I chose it because I had friends coming round, a special meal, and it would be something that I found inedible. I would just be so embarrassed. And then even as a teenager, because I was vegan, I'd sometimes go around to people's houses. They'd be like, oh, I made you this special vegan thing, and then it would have like peppers in it because a lot of vegan stuff does. But like, one thing I've realized as an adult is a lot of meals I didn't like growing up I actually hated because they had peppers in, and I don't like the taste of peppers. If I take the peppers out, I really like it, but then a lot of vegan food has peppers in it. So when people were making vegan recipes they found online, they were putting in the peppers, and I just feel like when something's got bell peppers in it, I'm like, oh, every bite tastes like pepper, you know, like it just, oh, it's a really strong, overpowering flavour, and I'd have to sit there and try and make it look like I'd eaten a decent amount of it and just feel so much guilt and shame about it. Because I don't know, yeah, there is kind of this insinuation that you're a bad person if you don't like all foods, or you're a difficult person, you know, it's a fussy eater. It's not a positive thing. Like, people often brag like, oh, I'll eat anything, I'd eat a zebra raw while it was still walking around, you know, and it's like, no, you wouldn't, for one. It's like being a food extrovert, you know, as opposed to fussy eaters being a food introvert. It's like seen as like a really valuable thing in society for some reason. I buy things for her from the street. I don't know what that means. Street food? Maybe they live somewhere where they have like street food? I don't know. And oftentimes she says she doesn't like it because it has this or that peppers, and tells me I should have known what she likes by now. But God, it's like I never get it right. I mean, I go out of the way to buy it and she doesn't even want it, and I feel like we've spoiled her for letting her be this way. I feel like this is a parody. Is this real? Am I just being trolled right now? I don't know. You haven't mentioned, in this entire thing, a single food so far that she actually doesn't like. Do you know? Could you do a list of things that she likes and dislikes? Does it change? I imagine for me, it stayed pretty consistent throughout my life. There are more things that I've started to like as I've got older, not because people pushed me to like them, but just because I think your taste changes, you have more control as you get older, you can maybe prepare things in ways that you like them more. Like, my husband really didn't like vegetables that much as a child, but now he'll eat any vegetables. He loves vegetables, and it was because they were often kind of overcooked, which is the more traditionally way to make them in the UK, you know, kind of boil them into a mush, and he couldn't stand that. And that was the same with my mum. My mum has a bit of a thing about cauliflower because my grandparents used to always overcook it, and it tastes really bitter when you overcook cauliflower. So I don't know. It can change as you get older and you have more freedom. Maybe he should ask, like, can you make me a list of things that you don't like, and then I'll make sure, because I do really want to be able to buy you food. Like, I can understand buying something for somebody and then feeling sad that they didn't like it, but like, you're not buying it with her in mind. You're maybe buying things that you like and then being like, well, I like them, why don't you like them? But not every person is the same. Recently, I've been at my wit's end with her and made up her mind I wouldn't let her get away anymore, but my wife says we can't force her. She's 18. She's 18. And that we were wrong for doing that in the past and grounding her for it. And she says there are therapies for that and that the way we did it was wrong, and now I'm conflicted. They grounded her for it. My gosh. She's an adult now and still runs away from me if I eat mangoes. And we've got one food that this person doesn't like. She still runs away from me if I eat mangoes. I just imagine him like coming at her with like mango all around his mouth and his fingers, like that's the kind of impression we're getting here. I'm assuming it's the father. I don't know, I'm getting father vibes from it, but who knows? Yellow mango fingers. I don't really love mangoes. No, I don't know. I find them like overly sweet. They're definitely not my favorite, and there's something a little bit squidge about the texture. I wished fruit was more consistent. It drives me mad. Apples, I mean, they can let you down. They can have a hard skin and they can be sour and stuff. But often, if you know which breed of apple you like, they can be more consistent than other fruits, which is nice. She makes us wash our hands just to touch her if we eat something she hates, and sometimes she won't even eat something if it's as much made contact with another thing that touched something she dislikes. My mom was the worst for I used to hate coffee growing up. Now I can't drink it because I have a problem with caffeine. She would stir my tea after she'd stirred the coffee, and I'd be like, you've done it again, because it would have coffee flavor. I get annoyed with my husband for not cleaning the chopping board sometimes. He'll cut something and I'll be like, well, that tastes like garlic, that tastes like onion. I don't know if that's normal, but it just feels like I'm failing as a parent if I let her act like this around something so sacred as food. Maybe this person's from a different culture, I don't know. So I've been making her eat those things more, but it's just not working. I've been thinking about what my wife told me, and I'm worried I'm wrong for doing that. I appreciate that you came to the subreddit for advice, Mr. Mango, Mr. or Mrs. Mango, whoever you are. I think that's quite nice, that you're seeking out other people's opinions. I would agree with your wife. I don't think it's a good idea if she's 18. If she's eating enough food, then fine. If you're concerned and think she might want to see a dietitian, you can always track a week or so of eating on something like Chronometer, which will break down all the micronutrients, check if you're getting enough of things. If you're getting enough, then it's fine. It doesn't matter. Somebody doesn't have to like every food. Some people are neurodivergent. She could be autistic, she could have ADHD, or she might just be a picky eater if she doesn't have any of the other traits of it. Some people just don't like certain foods, and that's okay. You don't have to eat every single food on the planet in order to be healthy, for sure. I don't know, I would say you probably are the arsehole, but I think it was not arseholey of you to come on the forum and ask for advice, and hopefully maybe you will listen to your wife and maybe move with the times. I think it sounds like you've got some very old-fashioned opinions around food. You're the arsehole. She's eating food, great. She is an adult and can choose what she wants to eat. What she can't do is expect you to adhere to her obsessive tendencies, like not eating things around her or washing your hands, etc. This seems more like a control thing for you. She's an adult. Stop trying to control her just because it bugs you. And again, I think maybe it's just him worrying that he's failed as a parent. You can let yourself off the hook. It's fine. Sometimes things are not about your parenting. Sometimes it's just how a person is. Maybe their brain works in a slightly different way. Their sensory experience of things might be slightly different to you. It isn't all about your parenting. Basically, there is a baseline kind of person there that you are raising who is her own individual. What she can't do is expect you to adhere to her obsessive tendencies, like not eating around her or washing your hands. I mean, washing your hands is a hygienic thing to do. It's not overwashing them, I suppose. It seems a bit harsh to call it obsessive tendencies, although, as an autistic person, I will say yes, we can sometimes have obsessive tendencies for sure. I think it's a kind thing to do if you know somebody really doesn't like something, to kind of not eat it around them and be respectful. Like, I know my husband hates crisps. He knows I hate a lot of other things, and therefore he often doesn't cook them, or he'll cook separately and make them for himself because he makes all of our meals. So yeah, if I am having crisps, I do tend to try and do it when I'm not around him. There are some times where I'm like, oh, I really want a crisp right now and you're here. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to kind of accommodate people if they really hate a certain food and think, well, I could just go in the other room and save this person, the distress of having to smell this thing, Depends how many food it is. If someone has a problem with like almost every single food that you're eating and it's all very different foods or something, then maybe they might want to see some sort of therapist. I don't know. You're the asshole. I have autism, which was undiagnosed as a kid, and my parents and grandparents used to force me to eat foods that caused me distress because of texture and smell. And guess what? I now have deep-rooted issues around food and have reverted to only being able to tolerate a very small selection of foods. Pretty sure if they hadn't forced the issue more, I'd be a lot less stressed about foods and more able to try them. Same, I was forced to finish my plate before I left the table, whether I threw up or not. I still to this day have a visceral reaction to some foods or smells. Yeah. You're the asshole. You did fail as a parent? No, don't tell Mr. Mango he failed. I think he is trying his best in his own way and made her food aversion worse by not seeking help to see what issues could be causing that and consulting a specialist on how to help her. Instead of being understanding and gently introducing foods by having them around her when she eats so she can choose what she wants. Yeah, I like that. That's kind of what I try to do with my son, give him a selection of stuff. Listening to her when she doesn't want to be near certain food and adding more stress to a stressful situation, you have made it worse and have continued this abusive behavior for 18 years. It's a bit tricky because I do feel like to some extent this kind of attitude is the societal norm. So I don't think he was meaning to be abusive or controlling or anything like that. But I do think maybe Mr. Mango needs to learn a bit more and move with the times and maybe listen to his wife. Hopefully he's open to what she's trying to say, and it does seem like he is listening a little bit. Forcing a child to eat something they don't want to eat is child abuse. I get it. It is also tricky because, yeah, as a parent, you feel like you're growing a person. You've got to make sure that they are okay. So it's kind of a balance. But yeah, for sure, if they're absolutely refusing, you should probably go and see a dietitian or something like that. I suppose that, oh my goodness, you didn't actually pull the age-old starving kids line out on an 18-year-old, did you? You said yourself she eats healthy food, so leave her alone and perhaps consider professional help for yourself to deal with your obsession with what she eats. That's not healthy. You are the asshole. Yeah, I don't know why he's so concerned. Maybe it was a big issue in his household and his upbringing, though. We need to stop the food cycle. Stop the cycle. Yeah, I'm very lucky. Like, my mum would put things on my plate that I didn't like, and she'd say, oh, it's healthy, da da da. But most of the time, she wouldn't kind of press me to eat it. She just didn't like when I gagged and things like that. But then, yeah, I definitely have had experiences when I would be with other people of like, you must eat this. That doesn't feel nice. It doesn't make you feel open to trying foods, for sure. It kind of shuts it down. If you want to watch another one of these Am I the Asshole videos, I did one where somebody put their squishmallows in the bath and had a bath with them, and then their partner had this like really extreme reaction to it, and she's taking baths with moldy squishmallows in all caps. In response, I put them in a garbage bag and threw them away. And if you want another food related one, there's a really heartwarming story in another one of them about ducks and peas. That sounds ridiculous, but I'm sorry, it really is a wholesome moment. I feel like you need it in your life. The last thing is that I fed the ducks the peas. I think they were happy about it. I just want to cry. If you would like to support these videos, you can do so on Patreon. The lowest tier that I have is $4 per month. Even if you sign up to the lowest tier, you still get access to the Discord server, so you can chat with other neurodivergent people and make some friends. And you also get 2 exclusive videos a month on the lowest tier. And then there's more stuff for the higher tiers. I have a load of stuff that I need to post at the moment that is half finished. And so you can expect an avalanche of content coming your way. And I think very soon I am going to get it on a schedule so you know exactly what day to expect each thing on Patreon. Had a lot of personal life admin going on recently, so it's been a bit chaotic, but I'm chugging along. I'm trying my best. Trying to get you everything that I want to give you. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Bye!